Hello lovelies, welcome to Gist Band TV. Today let's gist about Sonia Uche and her mom Uche Nancy, which fans been speculating about her giving Maurice Sam consent with Sonia Uche. The story opens on a bustling fictional movie set, the kind where every corner buzzes with energy. Makeup artists shuffle between actors, brushing faces, fixing hair, and whispering last-minute touch-ups. Technicians adjust lights, sound guys test microphones, and assistants hurry around with props, trying not to bump into anyone. Amid all this chaos, one person stands unusually calm, but not in a good way. Maurice Sam walks in, greeting everyone with his usual charm, yet something is off. His voice lacks its usual spark, and his smile seems like it's working extra hard to stay on his face. Producer Uche Nancy, ever observant, immediately notices his mood. She watches him as he moves around the set, pretending to go through the motions but clearly distracted. Every time someone talks to him, he responds a bit too slowly, like someone whose mind is far away. Uche Nancy raises her eyebrows slightly, already forming her own theories. She has worked with dozens of actors, and one thing she can always detect is when someone's spirit is not aligned with their body. Something is troubling Maurice, and she silently decides she will get to the bottom of it. Later that morning, when the crew finally takes a short break, Uche Nancy wastes no time. She calls Maurice with that calm but firm tone that no one can ignore. He hesitates for a second, then walks over to her corner, the same spot where she usually settles script changes, resolves actor conflict, or gives pep talks when scenes get tough. The moment he sits down, she studies his face, not rushing him, just observing. Maurice tries to act normal, fiddling with his phone, adjusting his shirt like he's trying to hide his nerves behind small movements. But Uche Nancy is not fooled. She leans forward slightly, her voice low but steady, telling him she knows when something is weighing on him. Maurice tries to brush it off with a light laugh, but she cuts him off gently, reminding him that distractions don't just affect him, they affect the entire set, especially when he's one of the leads. With a sigh, he realizes she isn't letting him out of this conversation. Her tone is not confrontational, it's motherly, patient, and sincere. He finally understands he has no choice but to speak his truth. After a moment of silence, Maurice lowers his head and takes a deep breath. His fingers tap nervously against his knee before he finally mutters the name that's been lingering in his mind, Sonia. The moment the words leave his mouth, Uche Nancy's eyebrows rise in curiosity. Her posture straightens as if someone just turned on a spotlight. She asks him which Sonia, even though she already knows exactly who he means, Sonia Uche, the actress whose performances consistently draw admiration. Maurice nods silently, confirming her guess. For a moment, he doesn't say anything else, as if speaking her name alone carries more weight than he intended. Uche Nancy waits patiently, knowing better than to interrupt. Maurice's expression shifts into something between confusion and embarrassment. He finally admits that whatever is going on in his mind has everything to do with Sonia, and he's been trying to figure out how to handle it without complicating things on set. Uche Nancy's interest deepens, but she doesn't pressure him. Instead, she just gives him space to unravel the rest of what he's been keeping in. Maurice begins explaining how their professional partnership, something that started normally, has grown into something he can't quite define. Recently, they've been paired in back-to-back roles, lovers, emotional partners, characters whose lives intertwine deeply on screen. He admits that while he's used to playing romantic leads, working with Sonia feels different. Their connection is effortless, their scenes flow naturally, and even when they improvise, their emotions sync almost perfectly. At first, he assumed it was just great acting chemistry, but now he's not so sure. He confesses that after their last shoot, he kept replaying their scenes in his head, not for critique, but because something about them felt too real. He worries that what he's feeling might be crossing from on-screen performance into real-life emotion, and that thought scares him. He doesn't want to misinterpret professional synergy as something personal, nor does he want rumors or complications to arise. His honesty is soft, hesitant, and vulnerable. Uche Nancy listens closely, recognizing that this isn't some casual crush, this is an actor trying to navigate a delicate line between art and reality. Maurice continues, explaining that beyond the acting chemistry, it's Sonia's personality that lingers with him. He talks about how calm she is on set, how she listens deeply during rehearsals, and how she carries herself with this effortless grace that makes everyone comfortable. He says she doesn't force anything, her emotions, her presence, even her humor is gentle but impactful. Maurice admits he admires her discipline, the way she studies scripts for hours, the way she encourages younger crew members, and the way she always brings her A game even when she's exhausted. These qualities have drawn him in, making him question whether his admiration is slipping into something more personal. He reveals that he's been avoiding overthinking it, yet the more he tries to push the thoughts away, the more they occupy his mind. He fears losing professionalism, or worse, making things awkward between them. He doesn't want to do anything that would tarnish their working relationship or the respect they share. As he talks, the weight of his confusion becomes clearer, and it's obvious he's been carrying this silently for longer than he should. When Maurice finally stops talking, Uche Nancy's reaction is not what he expects. Instead of lecturing, she suddenly bursts into laughter, soft at first, then fuller, as if the situation is much simpler than he's making it. Maurice looks stunned, but she gently waves her hand, signaling him not to take her laughter the wrong way. She explains she's not laughing at his feelings but at how worried he's been over something that's actually very human. She tells him that actors often form emotional bonds through their roles, it's the nature of storytelling. When two people repeatedly share intense scenes, it's normal for emotions to blur temporarily. She assures him that he isn't the first actor to experience this type of confusion, nor will he be the last. Her laughter comes from seeing how seriously he's been tormenting himself over something perfectly natural. Maurice feels a mix of relief and embarrassment, but Uche Nancy's warmth quickly puts him at ease. Her laughter breaks the tension, making the moment lighter, and finally giving him space to breathe again. Once she stops laughing, Uche Nancy shifts into a more serious tone, offering the kind of wisdom that only comes from decades of working with actors. She explains that Sonia's professionalism is part of what makes her shine. The chemistry audiences love is rooted in skill, discipline, and dedication, not romantic confusion. She emphasizes that Sonia has mastered the art of connecting deeply in a scene and disconnecting just as easily afterward. Uche Nancy tells Maurice that mistaking on-screen chemistry for real emotion is a trap many actors fall into, and being able to separate the two is part of the job. She assures him there's nothing wrong with admiring Sonia's craft, in fact, it's a sign of respect. But she gently warns him not to interpret professional synchronicity as personal destiny. She reminds him that their job is to create believable illusions, and sometimes those illusions feel real enough to shake even the most experienced performers. Uche Nancy speaks calmly, helping Maurice see the difference between admiration and attachment, reshaping his perspective in a way that encourages clarity rather than emotional entanglement. After grounding him with her advice, Uche Nancy leans in with a softer tone. She tells Maurice that if his admiration is genuine and rooted in respect, not confusion, he shouldn't be afraid to express it. People deserve to hear they are appreciated, especially when they work hard. However, she wants him to approach such conversations with wisdom, maturity, and boundaries. Sonia, she reminds him, dislikes unnecessary drama and always prioritizes peace on set. Any conversation should be clear, calm, and respectful, without hidden intentions or emotional pressure. Maurice listens closely, nodding as everything she says begins to make sense. She advises him not to suppress his thoughts until they become heavier than they should be. Instead, communication, simple and honest, can dissolve misunderstandings before they grow. Her words settle into him like a gentle revelation. What Maurice feared would be complicated suddenly feels more manageable. Uche Nancy pats his shoulder reassuringly, showing she trusts him to handle things well. For the first time that day, Maurice's posture loosens, and he starts to breathe normally again, feeling much lighter. Just as their conversation wraps up, the universe decides to add a sprinkle of drama to the moment. Sonia walks into the room, script in hand, searching for the next scene they are scheduled to rehearse. Her presence shifts the atmosphere instantly. Maurice, who just finished talking about her, stiffens slightly. His voice drops when he greets her, almost as if he's trying to hide the emotional conversation he just had. Sonia, unaware of the situation, simply asks if he's ready for their next scene. Before Maurice can respond, Uche Nancy, with a mischievous grin forming on her face, playfully announces that Maurice has something to tell Sonia. The words hang in the air like a suspenseful soundtrack. Sonia turns to Maurice with curiosity, while he looks at Uche Nancy with shock, silently begging her not to stir the pot further. But she just laughs and walks away, leaving the two of them alone in the room, surrounded by an awkward silence that's thick enough to cut with a knife. Maurice suddenly wishes the floor would swallow him whole, while Sonia waits patiently, wondering what exactly she walked into. The silence stretches for a few seconds before Maurice finally forces himself to speak. He clears his throat, trying to steady his voice. Sonia looks at him gently, encouraging him without saying a word. Maurice decides to keep things simple. He tells her he just wanted to appreciate her for how easy she makes their work. He explains that acting with her feels natural, that her dedication pushes him to perform better, and that he values the emotional balance she brings to every scene. His words are sincere, without any hint of romantic suggestion, just respectful honesty. Sonia listens with a warm smile, touched by the compliment. She tells him she feels the same way, calling him one of the easiest actors to work with. Her tone is calm, reassuring, and genuine. She explains that the harmony people see on screen is simply the result of two professionals who take their craft seriously. The tension that had filled the room disappears gradually, replaced by a simple, human moment of mutual respect. Maurice relaxes noticeably, realizing the conversation he feared turned out to be effortless. After their conversation settles, Sonia and Maurice share a laugh over how dramatic the moment initially felt. Sonia even jokes about how Uche Nancy has a talent for creating suspense without warning, and Maurice laughs, relieved that things didn't spiral into awkwardness. The air becomes lighter, warmer, and easier to breathe. Their rapport returns to its natural state, comfortable, professional, and friendly. Maurice feels grateful that he followed Uche Nancy's advice, and Sonia feels appreciated without feeling pressured. The understanding between them becomes clearer than ever. They are colleagues who work incredibly well together, and that dynamic is something worth protecting. Their mutual respect becomes the foundation that ensures future scenes will be even smoother. As they prepare to return to set, Maurice feels a quiet confidence replacing the worry he carried earlier. Sonia gives him a nod, signaling that everything is fine, and that whatever conversation they had stays between them. The moment becomes a small turning point, not dramatic or romantic, but meaningful in its simplicity. Just when things are returning to normal, Uche Nancy re-enters the space, her eyes twinkling with that signature blend of humor and authority. She asks them dramatically whether they are done with their secret meeting, prompting both actors to burst into laughter. She teases Maurice lightly, patting him on the shoulder, then jokes that if they don't hurry back to rehearsals, she'll rewrite the scene to include extra emotional dialogue just to stress them out more. Sonia playfully groans and grabs her script, and Maurice quickly follows, shaking his head at Uche Nancy's antics. The energy on set feels brighter, more united. Everyone resumes their work, unaware that a small but meaningful moment just unfolded behind the scenes. Maurice walks away feeling relieved, lighter, and focused again. Sonia feels appreciated and grounded. And Uche Nancy, ever the wise producer, watches them with a satisfied smile, knowing that sometimes a simple conversation is all it takes to restore balance. The fictional set continues its work smoothly, as though nothing ever happened, yet everything quietly shifted for the better. And just like that, this fictional Nollywood moment comes to an end, no scandal, no drama, just a simple behind-the-scenes story about clarity, respect, and the magic that happens when professionals communicate honestly. Now let me ask you, my people, if you were in Maurice's shoes, would you have spoken up or kept quiet? And do you think on-screen chemistry can sometimes confuse real emotions? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Drop your opinions, your theories, and your own experiences. Let's gist like family.